All right. Linda, are we live? Close? Almost?
Just about.
All right. Chuck, how many holes do we have in the streets right now for water line repairs or whatever that is?
We're live.
All right.
Several.
Yeah, I noticed. All right, Board of Alderman work session is called to order. We only have one item on the agenda tonight, so I will hand it over to our Parks Director, Mr. Matt Denton.
Everybody, how's it going? Linda, would you like for me to share the memo, or would you like to share the memo for tonight's meeting?
I'll let you have it. I'll give you the ability.
Okay.
You should be good.
Let me put it up. Okay, Linda, is that being shared? Okay. All right, everybody. The subject for today's meeting is to update public facility use policy. The facility use policy governs the use of public facilities pursuant to section 105.030 of the municipal code. The policy is to provide access fairly and reasonably to city facilities and the community. It is the goal of the city to balance the needs of users to reserve facilities use and the needs and expectations of residents so they will have access to city facilities. The facility use policy was last revised in 2015. Since then, the facilitations and event process has changed for the convenience of Smithville residents. Staff reviewed the policy, has identified recommendations that reflect how facilities and events are handled. Based on the board's feedback and direction, staff will update the policy for the board's approval. Once approved, staff will update the event application form to reflect the policy. If any changes are made to the schedule of fees, staff will bring that to the board's approval as well. As we go through the memo, if you guys need me to repeat any section or any sentence, let me know, and I will do that for you guys. I plan to go section by section down the memo in front of you. You also have the red line version, the city public facility use policy as well. If that helps you follow along, it does go in order. See what it used to reflect to current changes that will be recommended through this policy. Cynthia, do you have anything before starting? Okay. Section 2A, availability. Staff is looking for comments and suggestions for the recommendation to add the highlighted sentence to this section. Planned parties should make a reservation prior to use. This will allow staff to monitor and prepare for larger events. Most surrounding communities require paid reservations for use of organized events at city-owned shelter houses. This change in policy would still allow for individuals or families to utilize the space when not being used.
Question, Matt.
Yes, Alderman Wilson.
Are we wanting to make sure they make a reservation? To me, should means they maybe wouldn't. So should that be must?
It's just kind of a fair line because not everybody is going to go out and to use and to make a reservation. Basically, what we want to do is kind of that reservation. That way we can prepare better for people's larger events and these.
So when I read that, to me, someone could still have one out there and the city still wouldn't necessarily know, would they?
Yeah, I think the situation Matt's running into is people plan things, and then if somebody does reserve it and it's being used by somebody else because it is first come first serve, they say, well, I reserved it, or I we've always done this at this time, or we've always done this here.
Yeah, we plan to do a better job of advertising when facilities are being used, that we plan to put up a sign system, for example, their house, similar to how Clay County and the Corps of Engineers uses their shelters. So people, and maybe that will start encouraging them to reserve online so they know for sure that they have that going into their event.
So I think the wording though does make a difference to Alderman Wilson's point is if this is going to be a city policy, I don't think we should have it as should. We should have it as planned parties will make a reservation or something that is, you know, if we're going to acknowledge the use of it, you have to make a reservation.
Yeah.
You know, it's first come, first serve, but if you want to call us and complain that somebody else is using it when you said it was yours, if we didn't make you make a reservation, then, you know.
But this isn't gonna prevent people from still using it if like
Right.
it's a once-off thing. They're like, oh hey, let's go do this right now.
Right.
As long as there's no reservation already there, I mean they're free to still access it.
Absolutely, but I'm just saying as policy language, we should have it as not, you know, even any gray area on it. If we're going to acknowledge you're using the facility, you will make a reservation. Not
Well,
you should.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Would it clarify things, I guess, in thinking about it in this way, in order to ensure use,
Yeah.
only parties who have made reservations prior to use, or parties who have made reservations prior to use will receive priority, or I think we can come up with some language that addresses that.
Yeah, I don't think we need to spin on the language
Yep.
tonight. Just get away from the should and make it more of a.
I think it needs to be more concrete.
Yep. No
But
fuzziness.
spelling out that if you've not reserved it, you can't show up and expect.
Right. But you can use it if it's available. No one else is there. But
Right.
Yeah.
don't say, "Oh, we've always had a party here at this, you know, the first of the year every year," and now you're telling us we can't have a party here, even though
Well,
they
I mean,
haven't reserved it.
yeah, you could easily just say reservations takes precedence if there's a conflict.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the main thing is, so if somebody calls City Hall and staff pulls up the policy and it reads, well, you should make a reservation, but you don't have to, then they're going to say, well, the city told me I could do it, so we thought it was available. So the policy should be very clear to staff that if somebody wants to use a facility, they have to make a reservation, and we don't tell, you know, that's what they tell them.
But I think, like John said, I think we can come up with some language here to bring back for the board.
Yep.
Is there any more recommendations before moving to the next section?
Marv's got his hand up.
Got a question. Will we have some kind of a bulletin board there in case somebody does reserve it in advance?
Yeah, our park staff is looking to better advertise when reservations are that way. Going into that afternoon or morning, someone does know when they're going to be there.
Excellent. Thank you.
I saw you had some shadow boxes on Gov Deals. You might be able to use those. Put a QR code. Links to the calendar. Google Calendar, downloadable. Put it on the LED sign.
Okay. Section 3A, presenter. Staff is looking for the board's comments and suggestions for the recommendation reoccurring for the senior center.
Can you
This will
scroll
allow.
down?
What's that?
Can you scroll down to that section?
Correct.
So I have senior centers at the top. There, keep going.
There we go.
There we go.
Should it just say recurring instead of reoccurring? Because
If you,
regular basis, isn't that recurring?
yeah, so so if you look at the policy facility use, it says for reoccurring reservation, contact Parks and Rec Department for that. There's some added words in there for reservation.
Okay.
This will allow for other organizations to use it for regular meetings. The reservation fee will be different than the one-time event cost. If approved, the information will need to be updated in the schedule of fees.
So I love that we're adding this. I think it's great. I think it's going to get the center used more. I'm fine with the nonprofit rate. On the other rate, I would think that we might have to have one other tier in there, and that's for Smithville businesses, since they are paying taxes here. And then maybe add non-Smithville business, non-nonprofit. I don't know. I'd like to hear from the rest of the board on that, but I think 200 for the Smithville business per month would be fine. That way, it's easier to divide for you guys if you're doing a weekly.
I can kind of pass this off to Brittany. Brittany was the one that did the research on the other communities and those fees together, so she'll have a better input on kind of what her vision was. That she will be the one kind of in charge of the reservations for the senior center.
Yeah, I was just going to confirm, Mayor, were you saying to add a third tier or 2 additional tiers?
Just add a third tier.
Okay.
That because you have staff recommends for-profit groups. I would just say for-profit Smithville business license holders. Make it 200, and then we go. Then maybe whatever the next tier up is, at $75 a week.
Okay, that's great feedback.
I don't know. Does anybody else have? I mean, I don't know that we'll have a lot of outside Smithville users of the senior center, but there's not a lot of space available elsewhere in the metro right now.
Okay, I'm going to go back to reoccurring or recurring. I've looked it up. Reoccurring, as we have it here, means it could just happen one time by definition, where recurring is on a regular weekly, monthly. So are we still okay with reoccurring?
No, I'm good with good with recurring.
Yeah, I would go recurring as well, because that vision is to have this so they can do this basically once, every 4 weeks like that. So weekly reservations is kind of what we're hoping for with this recommendation. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I know a couple of groups have reached out to me asking when this meeting was happening, because there are groups in town that are looking for space.
Yeah, we have some out there for this to move forward. So this will already be used if passed.
And I just think the 200 is easier on you guys if it's a business doing $50 a week. Anyone else? I know I can't see everybody's screen, so I can't always see if people are holding up hands. So just yell at us.
So if you have somebody that meets weekly and you've got 5 Wednesdays, let's say, you're okay with 1 free week?
Yeah, I'm fine.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm fine with that too, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, on the nonprofits, we've got it as 100 for the month also. So I think we just need to call that out, because if it's like a once a month thing, non-for-profit group, then they pay $50 for the 1 meeting a month, right?
That's correct. And when I was calling to see what other comparable facilities were doing, they didn't break it down whether or not it was a 1 hour a week or an hour and a half a week. They had set rates and they had limits on those, but instead of breaking them down individually, like per exact time per hour, they did up to 2 hours with a maximum of once a week per week each month. And they didn't allow payment per week or anything like that. It was a 1 month deal, and then it could be canceled by either party at any time after that month.
Yeah, so if they were meeting once a month, they still just pay that up front, right? Yeah. Correct, or if they're meeting, but if they're doing 4 weeks, and do we need to add anything in here for inclement weather that says, if you're a monthly rental and there's a snow day, you still are charged? Because that could get into a real pain if you're refunding every time, there's a bad Tuesday and you have to cancel those meetings for that 1 week.
Yeah, and we do get into what are changes and cancellation later in this document. So answer your question on kind of how that'll work out.
Yeah, I remember seeing it earlier on there or later in here for fields and things. But if we're charging them up front for a month, I don't think we need to go back and refund them for 1 week. But
Is there any further? Oh.
I just agree with the mayor.
Okay. Section 3A, City Hall Meeting Room. Staff is looking for the board's comments and suggestions for the recommendation of removing the city room from the facility use policy due to the recent improvements. Staff would recommend those and meeting space to use the senior center, which is accommodations for larger groups.
I'm good with that.
I concur.
No Christmas dinners at the meeting room.
I'm good as well. I mean, I don't know if we need to.
So in the past,
Everybody.
they've used the city hall for like the shop with the cop when they brought the kids and stuff, everything. Would we move that over to the senior center as well?
I think we call it city business in there, but yeah, that's what
Okay.
the shop with a cop is one that I know they like getting their picture, the group picture there. But Cynthia, what do you think on that one?
I would envision those things where it's city type events like Shop with a Cop. I know it's their group, but it's city staff that are primarily staffing that. You know, we use it for meetings if we have, you know, we use it throughout the day for local government meetings. If we have a meeting maybe of a MARC group wanting to do something on a Saturday, I would see it being at City Hall. That to me, I see those as government related function.
Yeah, I think when my message to Cynthia when I was reading through this is as long as there's somebody that's staff or elected that's part of the meeting, I think that's what the use is really for, not for. You know.
I do think we need to be careful of, you know, because staff's there on a daily basis. We do need to be careful of elected that it's coordinated with staff.
Right. But I'm saying I don't want just to give the keys to anybody that's not in that.
Well, it's not a rentable facility. It's something that is a sponsored meeting.
Right. Yeah, and right now, since it's your co-work space, there's definitely no meetings in there.
Mm-hmm. All right, section 3C, sports fields. Staff is looking for comments and suggestions for the recommendation of replacing the sentence, sports fields are available use of the customer and may not be shared with others without approval by the city. And replacing it with the following, sports field reservations are available for the sole use of and may not be traded, exchanged, or resold without approval by the Parks and Recreation Department. The updated sentence clearly states that one cannot sell, trade, or give another person their already reservation without approval from the Parks and Rec Department. The original sentence was put in place to prevent of city sports fields.
I'm good with that. Does this happen often, Matt?
This was something that happened in the past.
Okay.
But I do think it's still good to leave it there, especially with our reservations. We just need to know who's using the field and when they're using it, making sure that in all of our waivers, everything going forward before entering that reservation. So.
Yep, I agree. Anybody else have anything? Steve's good. I'm scrolling back and forth so I can try to see everybody on camera at least.
Thank you. So I can't see everybody either.
Yeah.
Okay. Section 5, Section 4, rate category. Currently, the rate categories are not reflected in the schedule of fees. Once adopted, the rate categories and different fees associated were not well perceived by the community, categories were not enforced. Currently, if an event is not a city or city co-sponsor, it is charged a regular price. Up to this point, there has not been an issue with this. Staff is looking for the board's comments and suggestions for the recommendation of the section to be show how event application have been handled. Below is what staff has recommended. Staff recommends keeping the rate categories, but the rate categories will be special events only and reducing it to 2 categories. This way, event applications have currently been handled. Category 1, city or city co-sponsor would be free. Category 2 would be other, fee according to approved schedule of fees.
Do we define city co-sponsored somewhere?
We don't, and how I would explain that to you guys is similar to if someone wanted the city, kind of in the past, different events I've came to the board and to you, Mayor, kind of waiving those fees. They bring those recommendations to the board of Alderman, and would decide if that's something you guys would want to move forward on to approve those city co-sponsors. Some of those, we have kind of made the decision that we would like to partner with this group, to build their help out, similar to haunted campground.
Right. Yeah, I get it. I just want to make sure we define it, that we have that definition somewhere. Approved by the Board of Aldermen, Mayor, or Parks Director and City Administrator, something like that, just somewhere within the policy.
Good to kind of put that process and how they could go about moving forward with that.
Yeah. Also, it removes any, Marv, just 1 second. I see. It removes any, it removes some of the conflict when somebody says, well, the city we can put the city's logo on it. So does that mean we get it for free?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Marv, go for it.
Earlier, we restricted or defined that we had nonprofit businesses and then non-businesses. Do we want to consider that in this category?
Yeah. Do on the schedule of fees, Matt, are you proposing a rate for nonprofit versus for-profit, since we're doing that as the part of the senior center fees?
Yeah, this is something how we could change also. Yeah, that would be something we'll need to look further in. Do every, because we're probably not going to get outside businesses doing a bunch of, here in Smithfield. But if basically we put those regular businesses, regular fees for other in category 2.
Yeah, but so like if we have, for example, a local nonprofit wants to do something at a different rate versus somebody who uses the entire downtown for a weekend but has no business, residence, or anything in Smithville. They're literally just renting the square to do their event.
Right.
Which we have a couple of those. We do have a few of those.
Yeah, I was gonna say currently there are local nonprofits that are paying the category 2 fee with
You're cutting out a little bit there, Matt.
There are local nonprofits that are using category 2 other currently with no issues.
Okay.
Current event fee, for example, the courtyard is $100 with the deposit onto that, so it's not a huge, to say the least.
What's our deposit? Sorry, you're cutting out. Is it just me, or is Matt cutting out for everybody?
No, I'm cutting. Okay. Believe it is 200 or 250.
I would like to see some sort of language at some point. It might be in here. I'm not sure about the process on that deposit being refunded. Either it's the parks director or assistant city administrator or somebody signs off on that. I know we've had like 2 in the last year that probably shouldn't have got their deposit back. And also, if that happens, that we maybe update the application, or update the memo when these to come to the board that that event had an issue where they didn't receive their deposit back for whatever those issues were.
Well, and if that is something that the board wants to add, I think that we do need clarifying language on what that would be, so that there is language that helps staff in understanding when a deposit wouldn't be refunded. And so we can draft some language for board review.
Yeah, to me, it's if it's not returned in the state it was provided, right? If we have to go through and do any type of cleanup, repair, filling in holes, removing paint, those, and it's Matt's staff's time to go in and do that stuff, or Chuck's staff's time to go in and fix that stuff, that should be deducted from their fees, from their deposit. Same thing with the senior center. They go in and break a window, we're going to take it out of the deposit, right? I mean, downtown, we spent a lot of money on this downtown to make it look nice. I would like to keep it that way, and not reward people for not respecting it and giving them the money back.
Section A, application. My is going unstable, so if I do need to repeat anything, please let me know. Staff is looking for the board's comments and suggestions for the recommendation of removing a non-refundable application fee of 10% or $25, whatever is higher, is required at the time of application. Once an application has been approved, the fee will be applied towards the reservation fee. Currently, staff does not accept reservation requests until payment is paid in full.
Yeah, that's kind of, so we have it in the policy that we take a deposit, but we're not taking deposits.
Correct. We're not accepting the application fee, not the deposit.
Okay.
To my knowledge, talking with staff who've been, that had never been applied. They just didn't approve a reservation or an event application until staff approved it and then payment was in full.
So we have a policy to take a non-refundable application fee, but we don't take a non-refundable application fee.
Correct.
Cool.
I think a lot of what you're seeing here are items that, because of pushback at various times from the public in implementation of those, they've, by practice, not been completed by staff. And so that's why we want to bring it to you all to make sure that we know what the issues are, and based on those practices, recommending cleaning this up.
Oh, I get it. I'm just,
yeah.
Some policies to the letter, some do not. I get it. Yeah, Matt, I think we're good with.
Okay.
Because you do it all. You can do most of it online now, right? So if they go fill it out online,
Correct.
It's not really taking staff time.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, the goal would be to have this application to be online once this is approved and move forward. Obviously, with still the option to do it in person, but yes. So.
Marv has a question.
Oh, yeah, go for it, Marv. You can just interrupt us, Marv.
No, I just put a chat out there for food for thought. Just going back to a previous section, what's the difference between renting the senior center and the courtyard? I mean, we're both city-owned property. Shouldn't they be mirrored?
It's gotten a lot closer. Yeah.
So I just left it out for everybody to think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Marv, is your question, should they be the same dollar wise or should there be the same classifications of expenditures?
It's kind of like, I think the dollar amount could be different because it's bigger space. But if we can support the local businesses at a little bit cheaper rate, would that be a benefit?
And I think that's what the mayor had brought up. And so my understanding is as we look at that, when we bring this forward, staff will bring some items to review with regard to reservations in either the courtyard or the senior center. Now, do you want that extended to shelters as well, or just the two larger?
I just put it there in the chat for them to think about.
Yeah. The shelters, I don't think there's a lot of wiggle room anyway, because they're fairly inexpensive.
Not for that, yeah.
But like the camp, maybe the campground is another big facility, right? But we're also talking future if we have other facilities come available.
Right.
We're gonna rent out Chuck's. We're gonna rent out Chuck's office at some point.
And remember that this serves a basis for discussion when we have additional facilities, we absolutely have the opportunity to review this again.
Yeah, I heard Chuck's putting on a 5,000 square foot office at the new public works facility for himself. So we'll have to rent that out. We might have a backhoe parked in it too, but.
All right. Section 6B, changes and cancellation. Staff is looking for the board's comments and suggestions for the recommendation of adding inclement weather to the list of approved changes, allowing one change with a 48-hour advance notice and adding the ability to reschedule within 7 days from reservation. This is with ball fields and shelter house reservations when it rains or is predicted to rain. Rescheduling is not allowed under this policy. Staff believes this change in policy would benefit and be a reasonable way to handle last-minute changes. This change would also protect fields by allowing teams to reschedule reservations on when conditions are too wet to utilize without causing harm to the field.
So would some of this be handled through the software, or would this always require staff intervention?
This would require a staff intervention. Yeah, it'd be Brittany or the recreation and marketing manager who's in that position. So yeah.
Okay. And do you guys usually try to like relocate them if Heritage is too wet to have them use Smith's Fork if it's available also, or? Yeah,
when do our part to reach out to that customer to let them know the field is unplayable. When we give them options, either they can still keep it and use the ground or different areas within the park that could still allow them to get a. So we do our part to make sure that their accommodations are met and communication is at a high level.
Anyone have anything to add? Okay, Matt, I think you move on.
Okay. Section C, changes. Staff is looking for the board's comments and suggestions for the recommendation of removing the highlighted sentence. Additional changes made will be charged an additional fundable application fee per change. This charge is not reflected in the schedule. Staff is not sure why. Staff has not seen this as an issue and believe this change would benefit the community.
Okay. Steve's good. Chevalier doesn't have his camera on, so I can't. Marv looks like he's all right.
All right, section 7F, insurance. Staff is looking for the board's comments and suggestions for the recommendation of removing the highlighted sentence. Liquor liability insurance is required for all events serving alcohol beverages, as this is no longer required anymore by the state. And at the next section, we will under alcohol use, what is required by the state and chief of police. So we're just that sentence just to show that it's no longer being used.
So Cynthia, have you guys checked with our insurance carrier to make sure that $1 million is still good? I know a lot of rentals and others have changed their general liability rules.
We will confirm that. I can't imagine it going down any.
Oh no,
Typically
going
that is
up.
the amount. Yeah.
Most
we'll
have gone up
confirm
to 4.2, where it's 4 million total coverage or 2 million per occurrence or something like that. So
we'll confirm.
Okay.
Section 8, alcohol use. B, staff is looking for the board's comments and suggestions for the recommendation of removing the highlighted section. Liquor liability insurance, as it is not required by the state anymore. Staff recommends what is currently required by the city and state. Completion of the alcohol of the special event application and a temporary liquor license will need to be reviewed and approved by the chief of police and board of aldermen for events serving alcohol beverages.
I'm good. Anybody else? Steve's good. Marv looked like he's nodding. Okay. Chevalier Dan. Okay.
I'm good.
Cool.
I'm sorry, I'm good. My bad.
Section 8, alcohol use. E, staff is looking for the board's comments and suggestions for removing the high facility since alcohol is not allowed in indoor facilities.
Yeah, I'm good with that one.
Section 11B, reservation times. Staff is looking for the board's and suggestions for the recommendation of removing the following sentence. Use of the facility begins prior to or ends after the scheduled reservation. The city reserves the right to bill at 150% of the rate. Staff has not seen this as an issue and believes the change of policy would benefit the community. We would still recommend, or the group doing the event, to make sure that there are, ending their event on time. Our local law enforcement do a great job at, attending those events and making sure that is the case. Mark, Alderman Atkins.
So if I'm going to reserve a facility like the center for 2 hours for a birthday party, and I want to utilize that 2 hours for my birthday party, if I come in 20, 30 minutes early to set it up, will I be charged?
For the senior center, you would not, because we know that 30-minute grace period to come in and set up your reservation.
Okay.
Isn't the senior center currently with the way the reservations are today, you get it for the day, right? You don't rent by the hour currently, right?
Correct.
So yeah.
Okay. I thought
so what
it was
is
an hour period.
So does this apply to the ball fields? Mostly is where this is run into, or shelters, or?
I would say this would be more of all reservation times, because I think this would go for anything. If say you're, an event that's at the courtyard doesn't end at the time of 11 o'clock, and it continues going, or could be for ball fields that you're staying past your time and someone else is needed to be there.
Yeah, I'm fine with moving it. I just want to make sure we still have some enforcement, but yeah.
Correct. Agree on the enforcement part. All right. The last one, section 11C, festival vendors. Staff is for its comments and suggestions for the recommendation of updating this ordinance, section 10.110, to remove the $10 festival charge. It is currently located in section 610.110 of the municipal code and with an ordinance amendment. Staff feels that this can be monitored by collecting names and contact information from the event organizer.
So is this one we aren't charging as well?
We weren't charging.
Okay.
This seems like it would be an interesting concept of how we would collect those $10 from festival or from the event organizer.
Yeah.
And the contact information, we can make sure we have that information, suggest if someone wasn't allowed to say, for example, if we were, have that.
Is it clear on the application that they need that information? I mean, is that something that's clear that says they should keep track of that in case we need it? Or in the packet or anything else?
It just says that vendors are subject to that section, so we would have to they would have to locate that section to know that there's a $10 festival charge.
Well, I mean, not even if we take the $10 fee out, which I'm fine with doing, because going around, that means Matt or you or somebody from staff would need to go around and make sure everybody has a little, placard because they pay their $10 fee, right? They go to City Hall or whatnot. I get why it was put there. But if we get rid of it, do we want to make sure that we put on the application that, make sure you have your vendor contact info in case we need to reach out to them, in case something goes on, if we need to reach out to them or whatever.
Yeah. So on the event application, a page that says festival vendors, and it has that event organizer, they fill out the name, contact information, and location. So on the event application.
It's not money we're collecting today, so that's or another ordinance there that we're anyway.
Is there any other sections on the public safety that the board would recommend any changes to or recommendations that weren't presented here?
I like that you already added the Helvey Park shelter house that doesn't exist yet.
Yes. We're ready for it. It'll be an awesome place.
And so, like on the soccer fields and baseball fields, you guys don't lock those up, right? They can, because it says they can walk in if nobody's using them, right? Like they're available to get on if needed, right?
Correct.
You lock the gate at
We don't lock any gates.
The yellow gate. Is that the core that locks those?
They lock them on snowy weather is when they lock those up. Yes.
Okay. And
they reopen those once it's safe to use the roadway.
I mean, you just tear out the whole driveway, so you can't even get through it unless you're on a 4x4 right now. So.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything to add on here?
All right, everybody. Thank you for your time and reviewing that with me. And we will get that back around with your suggestions and bring them back for approval. I appreciate the time.
Looks good, Matt.
So, Cynthia, on the, have we had any more issues with signs for events or anything like that in the last? I mean, I know we didn't do a lot last year with COVID, but are we good on our sign ordinance? We have a section on signs in park,
Yes, that sign ordinance is something that I looked at with staff as well, and it does make sure that approval should be given by Brandy, is who is in charge of that section of the municipal code, and we are going to, as a staff, do a better job of making sure we enforce that going forward.
Okay. Anybody else? I know you guys all most of you at some point either attend or help plan some of these events. Is there anything else you've heard or ran into that we need to have them look at a little more?
I don't think so.
More candy at the haunted campground. That's all I know. That's all it means.
I'll work on that.
Yeah.
That'll be good too with Anna's experience as well with events in different locations to see what that could bring for future updates going forward. So with schedule fees as well. In her short time here, she did help out with this. So
Who was that?
Anna, yeah.
Oh. Adding value already, huh?
All right, adding value.
Come to Smithville. You can work in a co-work space. All right. Okay. Well, I guess we'll, did we said we need to take a break, right, Linda, and start at 7? Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Same meeting.
Marv, do you have a second?
Second.
Sarver, second. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Say no. All right. See you again in a couple minutes. We're on the same Zoom, right? So.
Yes.
Well, Chuck just written right.